in County Human Services to come meet with us so that we can try to help, work on that connection and improve that connection.
If I may confirm then with you, so one of the things that I learned that I really appreciate about DAP is the need to only tell about a trauma or tell your story once. Mm-hmm. And so is that part of that warm handoff, is that then other services are able to go in with that information and not have to start with the victim and have them have to retell their story as well?
Yes, Councilmember Palmisano, Mr. Chair, that is exactly what our hope is. Having someone have to tell the same story over 12 times is not particularly helpful and makes you tired of telling the same story and wonder why you went to someone for help in the first place. And one great example of this that's been going on for a long time is the police department's partnership with Child Protection and going out on those child protection cases as a group so that the child protection worker and the police officer investigating a child abuse allegation, the child doesn't have to talk to 5 people. They can do it all at once. And I think we want to continue that mode of working together to reduce the retelling of stories.
Thank you. I just want to say I think this is great. When we examine systemic issues in our city and how they escalate and get into other kinds of criminal activity and what it does to children in this space, I just want to acknowledge this is one of the most important matters of equity that we can address. And I think this pilot project shows that we can make an impact. I hope we do more of it.
Thank you. Council President Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so what is, I'm pleased to hear the county is coming in, but I think we should be, as they're oomping up their response on child abuse, the new task force they have, I want us to be interacting with that because obviously there's the connection between domestic abuse and child abuse as well. So
yeah, no, there certainly is, Council Chair Johnson and Mr. Chair, Deputy Chief Folkens, where to go? And the police department. He'll be a great resource for us as he sits in a new chair, and because of his strong commitment and work with regards to the child abuse and domestic violence cases, where he acted so ably as the commander. And Assistant Chief Arneson could not be here today, but she's been a very strong supporter of all of the domestic violence related incidents domestic violence related in the innovations that we've made over the last few years.
Great, thank you.
Council members, any other comments? Well, if I may close, a couple quick questions. First, are we tracking race?
Council Chair, no, we are not tracking race.
Okay.
Most of the time, because it's not identified in the 911 call, and we did not want to track incomplete data. Okay.
And even in the home visits, we're not tracking it. Okay. And second question is just with regards to these home visits, when, let's say when we get to these homes and, let's say at some point we recognize that the offenders or let's say the perpetrators are there, what is it within our toolbox that we can use or do to, help with that? I see that we've referred, a few offenders to programs, but is there anything else that we can do outside of that?
Well, Council Chair, that's a great question. The goal of this was not to increase convictions or prosecutions. It really was to look at it holistically. And so our goal was, that's why we picked a family therapist. And Leah, I won't, tout her too much, but she has experience at DAP working both in the women's program, the men's program, and in the children's program. And that's why we were so pleased to have someone like her be the therapist who's going out on these visits, because we want to offer services and help to everyone within the home. And the resource handouts that we've developed really do address needs of everyone, whether it's job training or education. And our hope is, and food shelf or energy assistance, our hope is that we can continue to grow in that and offer services to everyone in the home, because while poverty or alcohol use or drug use does not cause domestic violence, it certainly is a large part of what we see and only sometimes exacerbates the tension and the violence in the home if you don't address those sometimes underlying parts of the violence.
So I want to close with this comment. I want to reiterate a point that you made earlier, which is that domestic violence is across the city. It's just not on the north side. And, Councilmember Palmisano actually pointed that out, that, even in Southwest Minneapolis, we're seeing these issues of domestic violence happening. And, the other point that I wanted to make was just, I was amazed by the correlation between the hotspots and domestic violence. And, I think hidden under there is just this idea, maybe a theory more than anything, that stopping domestic violence may curb crime that happens, let's say up on the north side, but anywhere else in the city. And, I think, to look at that further and to see what we can do to stop domestic violence, maybe that will curb crime. Is a really important idea to throw out there. And so, I just want to commend you all for doing this project. I think it's wonderful. And, again, being one of the council members that represents North Minneapolis, just to see this is eye-opening, just because, I think sometimes, we feel like we get picked on in North Minneapolis, but, in situations like this, I think, most of us can understand that this is, an issue that goes across racial barriers, geographic barriers, regional barriers, and all that stuff to all parts of the city and all parts of the state even. And so I really appreciate you all being here and presenting on this. So thank you.
Thank you.
And Susan, did you?
Yeah. Mr. Chair, if I might interject once more, thank you so much for raising that last point, because it absolutely is a crime that affects all racial groups, all economic groups. A friend of mine, a partner at one of the major national law firms here in town, was a victim just a couple of years ago. Lived out in the suburbs. So by focusing this pilot in North Minneapolis, it is by no means any reflection that there's a bigger problem in North Minneapolis than in any other community. We know it's a crime that affects all of us. So thank you for pointing that out.
Okay, thank you. So, Councilmember, I will move to receive and file this report. Any discussion? All right. With no discussion, great work. And all those in approval, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And we have nothing before this committee at this point. All business has been done, so we will adjourn. Thank you.